Hello, everybody. Welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. And I don't know about you, TJ, but I was not prepared for that countdown music that just played. Um, talk about a bit of a downgrade here at the StreamYard. The old countdown music was pretty banging. We're gonna have to work on that here at Prime Sports World because that's not working for me right now. But yeah, I'm David Huffman, host of Prime Sports World. There's my co-host, Mr. TJ Hopkins. On today's show, we're gonna talk about the NFC West and give you their offseason preview for all teams in that division. And TJ, I'm finally starting to feel a little bit better. Man, pneumonia is no joke, dude. I don't know if you've ever had that before, but it put me down. Like, holy cow, dude.
Nope, I have not. Knock on wood.
Yeah, it was. I haven't felt like that in a real long time. Like it was nuts. Like, I had a hard time breathing and stuff. It was nuts. Not fun. Don't recommend. 0 out of 10 on the Facebook Marketplace review there. What's up, man? Happy Sunday. Let's talk about the NFL. How's things going over on your end?
Another day.
Appreciate that, brother. All right, let's talk about it. So, surprisingly, the bottom team in this league ended up being the San Francisco 49ers after a pretty disastrous season for them with injuries. Obviously, there is their draft capital, 11. They have the 11th overall pick in this upcoming draft. They do have some big-time names that are going to be free agents on this roster. Javon Hargrave, who was a big free agent signing for them 2 years ago. It's just been okay for them as like a big Gavarius Ward. Their best corner, Drake Greenlaw, who did come back off that Achilles tear, is a big part of what they do on defense. John Feliciano plays guard. Taysom Gibson started safety. Rock Sin, a rotation corner. Jordan Mason, running back. Tua Tagovailoa, the great safety. And then Aaron Brooks, another offensive lineman in this team as well. $48 million in cap space. We also imagine that a lot of that projected cap space will be eaten into the Brock Purdy contract, whatever that ends up looking like. There's their head coach, GM, and team president. So, TJ, let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers. What should their priorities be when it comes to free agency and the draft this offseason?
Obviously, it's starting to get to that. It's probably already been at that now or never point for them.
I think it's been there for at least like
I've said it for like the last, I'm gonna say three years. Like, hey, y'all can't keep having these great rosters and coming up short. It's either you go to the NFC Championship or you miss the playoffs. There's no in between. There's no wild card and you go home. There's no divisional and you go home. So when y'all make the playoffs, bare minimum, y'all get into the NFC, well, the Super Bowl, really, because the only team that's beating y'all in the NFC Championship are the Rams
and the Eagles.
And the one time with the Eagles is a little bit of an asterisk next to it. Because y'all was beat to hell and they weren't. So I mean, like, hell, it was Christian McCaffrey was taking snaps at quarterback. Y'all had to
and we had that Philadelphia. I mean, he also had Brock Purdy come back in that game, and he literally couldn't throw the football. All they had to have him do was hand off the football.
Could not throw the ball. So obviously, like, your season is tarnished a little bit because you had the Nick Bosa political statement during an interview that he tries to he gets asked about it and he tries to hide, and it's like, nah, bro, you can't hide from that. You don't get to make the statement that you made and then talking about I'm not here to talk about that. Then why'd you wear the hat? Why'd you do it on the field? Why'd you do that movement then? Why did you do that?
I don't think they won a game after that.
They won one.
Yeah, so
they won one game, and that game was against a terrible Bears team, which is like, yeah, you went 1-6 or 1-7 down the stretch, but you want to do that, and then his saving grace after that was the Devondre Campbell fiasco, where he literally just took his ball and went home. And
but I think the other thing when you're talking about San Francisco 49ers, at least for this offseason, let's talk about Brock Purdy. I mean, I think it's supposed to be the most important because for the last 3 seasons, they've had Brock Purdy on a very, very cheap contract. I think he was probably making like $100,000.
He was making
something like.
No, he was making like it was like about 6. Maybe just.
I mean, we're talking about NFL starting quarterback money. It was nothing, but now, I mean, they're going to have to extend him this season. I don't think the extension actually kicks in until next offseason with the actual money. But like, what do you pay Brock Purdy? Like, what he's obviously overperformed out of his contract, but like, what is his value? What are you going to pay Brock Purdy? I know me and TJ, we talked about this a lot on this show. Like, what is he worth? Is he worth $55 million? Is he going to become the next highest paid quarterback? Or like, do you tread lightly with Brock Purdy?
Considering your roster, so he
and I do think this roster is going to look a little bit different. I think Deebo Samuel's potentially on the move on this team. I think there could be some shakeup in the offensive line. I think they could potentially try to move off of Trent Williams if they take an offensive lineman with like 11 overall.
So if you're Brock Purdy, obviously like your salary has increased each year you've been in the league because you went from Mr. Irrelevant to the starting quarterback. So your first year you're making $705,000, which after taxes and the state of California and in the city of San Francisco is probably at about still a lot of money. You probably at about 3.25, maybe a little bit more when you consider all things. So this past year, you're making, if I can pull that back up, thank you. You're making just under $1 million. So like going into this season, the 2025 season, you're 26 years old. You're making $5.2 million. So like if you're San Francisco, it's like, we basically you have a year. But you don't have a year. Like you gotta pay him. You have a year, but you don't have a year, and you have to figure out, like you said, who like out of the notable free agents. Like if we pay him,
there's some big names. I mean, obviously, because of Brock Purdy being on the roster, they can go over the salary cap and bring back their own guys. So they're not necessarily tied to like that scenario, but I mean, you look at the names on the list when it comes to free agency. I mean, you lose some of those guys, and this roster will not be as effective as it was the year before.
I don't see them wanting to move off of Talanoa Hufanga. I don't see them wanting to move off of Javarius Ward or Javon Hargrave or Tashawn Gibson for that, or even Drake Greenlaw for that matter.
I think Tashawn Gibson is somebody who's going to be a casualty here. I think they can go and draft a safety that gives you 75% of what Tashawn Gibson gives you.
But at the same time, like you also run that risk of again.
And I think Talanoa Hufanga is going to get mega paid. He's a good football player and he's important to their football team. I don't think they're going to be able to afford to keep him.
I think they will. So you're also kind of hoping that those who are free agents kind of stick to that hometown discount. Like it's like you can go elsewhere and get paid, or you can stay here, take a little bit of a pay cut and win. Like that's kind of their sell pitch to a lot of these dudes. Like, hey, they know the same shit we know. They see the same things we see. Like we either go to the Super Bowl, or we're not go.
Not to mention that this is not exactly a division that's an absolute juggernaut. I mean, we'll get to the other teams in this division, but there's a lot of question marks about at least Seattle and the Rams. What their teams are even going to look like next season as they go through a little bit of a transition phase. And the Cardinals are the Cardinals. I mean, San Francisco, a healthy San Francisco team is the best team in this division by far. You have an opportunity to make the playoffs. You have an opportunity to make a deep run in the playoffs.
So I obviously and then you just rehire
Robert Saleh
as the defensive coordinator. But like at the same time, so like if you're San Francisco, it's not just Brock Purdy that you got to make a decision on. You brought up Deebo Samuel. Hey, if I'm the Dallas Cowboys, I swear to God, I am calling. If Jerry Jones was smart, what is your asking price for Deebo Samuel? I got to get somebody down here with CeeDee Lamb. What is your asking price for Deebo Samuel? Trent Williams might retire. You never know. You never know. Like so, like to lose that linchpin that's been your left tackle to automatically have to go into, maybe you go into the draft and be like, because it's not a lot of time, but a lot can happen between now and April 28th or whenever the draft is. I'm just throwing a rock into the,
Yeah.
So like, because if you're at 11 and all of a sudden Trent Williams decides to hang him up, your whole draft strategy changes.
Well, you could make the argument that they probably should address offensive line, regardless. Like when you look at their team, I mean, they do have some other notable needs. Most notably, defensive line, especially if Javon Hargrave leaves. Offensive tackle, with Trent Williams, still a good football player, but did miss some time this year and last year with various injuries and personal stuff. And then they also have a needed linebacker. I mean, they have Fred Warner, who's one of the best in the biz, but outside of him, I mean, the linebacker
also, and like you said, like Drake Greenlaw is probably could possibly leave, and then the whole Devondre Campbell is going to be lucky to get in anybody's locker room.
Yeah, he's not coming back to this team
after that. Like, yeah, so it's I ain't gonna say it's a mess over in the Bay, but they do have to have some conversations. And if I'm ownership and I'm bringing in John Lynch, and I'm seriously having a conversation about Kyle Shanahan, like, bro, we can't keep giving the coach these stacked rosters and then keep coming up short. Basically, 49ers, the organization, and your fans, you're a more likable version of the Cowboys. It's been 30 fucking years for y'all, too. Why y'all be talking shit about them?
Let's talk top three priorities. What do you think the top three priorities should be for the San Francisco 49ers before we move into Arizona?
Well, because the quarterback is the end-all be-all for football, and I hate that it's become that, one, make a decision on Brock Purdy. So that's priority number one. Priority number two, get a better training staff. I don't know. Like it's either, again, y'all either don't make it to the Super Bowl, like y'all either make it to the Super Bowl or y'all don't. And the reason being is because y'all just one magic season, just all of a sudden just get beat to hell. And you look at the Eagles, 22 out of 21 starters played in the Super Bowl. 22 out of 21. The only one that didn't play, Nakobe Dean. So if you're the 49ers and you look at that and it's like, what the hell are they doing over there that we not doing? Like, that's priority number two. Get a better training staff. Priority number three, I think they fixed it already. It's fix your defense.
I mean, this is one of the most fearsome units in the NFL, and last season they just kind of lost a little bit of that luster, especially in the secondary.
That defense under Robert Saleh versus the defense under Steve Wilkes versus the defense under, who the hell did they just have? Because it wasn't Steve Wilkes. They fired him after one season. You went to the Super Bowl under Steve Wilkes and you fired him. I forgot who they hired this past season, but they move off of him, and then, like, I guess it was like, hey, the defense looked better under this one guy, and it's like, oh, we're going to bring him back. And so, yeah, I think that was priority number three, and they already took care of that one. So 1 down, 2 to go.
Moving on from the San Francisco 49ers, let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals, who surprisingly had a little bit better season than I think a lot of people predicted when we first talked about the Arizona Cardinals last offseason. They have the 16th overall pick in this upcoming draft. They do have some notable names there on their free agency. Kaiser White, Will Hernandez is an offensive lineman. Kelvin Beachum is an offensive lineman who spent a lot of the season injured last year. Zay Jones, a productive wide receiver. Baron Browning, who they traded for from the Denver Broncos.
Denver. My bad.
They have $71 million in cap space. Jonathan Gannon is still the head coach of this football team. There's their GM. There's their team president. Let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals. What should they do to approach the free agency and the draft? And what should their priorities be here for the Arizona Cardinals as they try to look, it was actually a pretty good season for the Arizona Cardinals. They were a dark horse playoff team at the beginning of the year, came back down to earth towards the end, and then, this kind of finished the season as kind of just a middle of the team NFL team.
So if you're the Arizona Cardinals, oh man, you're one of the teams in the division playing catch up. I think there's two teams clearly ahead of you, and they're both it's the Rams and the Niners who we just talked about. So basically, you and Seattle are playing for third. It sucks. It is what it is. So I think you address. I think you go into the draft. You at 16. If you can't move up, if you can't move up, like obviously asking to move up like 5 or 6 spots is a tough task. We've seen it done. We've seen it done, but I think after what Ryan Poles did to the Carolina Panthers, I think teams are not going to be so gung ho.
I'm not so sure. I think there's going to be some serious draft capital being on the move for
I,
somebody.
I,
Somebody wants
ooh,
that Titans pick or that Cleveland Browns pick at 1 and 2 to get their pick of that quarterback. I think there's going to be some serious draft capital moving.
I, I, I think that's a tough ass, bro. So if you're obviously like you're looking at the weapons, like Marvin Harrison Jr. to some had a quote unquote disappointing
Well,
uh,
I think
rookie
the
year.
expectations for Marvin Harrison Jr. were absurd. He was never going to live up to those expectations, given
That's
the
why
Arizona. But the found,
that's why I
but
said quote unquote disappointing. I'm like
But
the
the
guy had
foundation pieces in Arizona, especially on the offensive side of the ball, are there. I mean, Paris Johnson is a really good left tackle. Trey McBride is a fantastic tight end. Kyler Murray is still a pretty good quarterback. And then you got Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, that's a pretty good foundational pieces to build an offense around. You got Michael Wilson, who had moments. Greg Dortch, who's fine. James Conner's still a fantastic running back in the passing game. And Trey Benson, people thought they were going to get a lot out of him this season. Was really banged up and really never gave them anything this year. But I mean, you have some pieces on this offense that you're like, yeah, there's some foundation here.
it is, and I was like I like the rapport that Kyler Murray developed with what is his name? Trey
Trey
McBride.
McBride, yeah.
Like to 111 receptions, 1146 yards, but he only had 2 touchdowns. So that means you could go to Trey McBride to move the chains, but you couldn't use him to score. Like I said, Marvin Harrison Jr., 62 catches, 885 yards, 8 touchdowns. I'm like, and people were calling that a quote unquote disappointing rookie season. I'm like, what was y'all? What was
Well,
y'all want him to have?
I think the thing is, people saw the numbers that like a Brian Thomas put up or a Malik Neighbors put up, and they're like, why didn't Marvin Harrison put
How
up those
many of
kind of
those
numbers?
games, like how many of those stats were empty stats, bro? Like it's easy
A
to
lot of
it's
them,
easy
a lot of them, a
like
lot of them. But,
you passing the ball and you getting your ass kicked. Like that's
yeah.
it's who cares? Who cares that Brian Thomas or Malik Neighbors had 7 for 180 and 2 touchdowns when the final score was 34-14?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who really cares?
You're preaching to the choir, TJ.
So if you're the Arizona Cardinals, you got 16, you got 47. I think with those first two picks, I think if you again, this is if you just stand packed and you don't move off of them. I think you use both picks. I think you go 1-1. I think the first pick, depending on who's there, you get another weapon for Kyler Murray at 16.
Man, I think they need to address edge rusher. I just they only had 41
Depend,
sacks last year. I mean, they were somewhere
depending
in the middle of the pack.
depending on who's there, right? I don't know what their draft board look like. That's why I said depending on who's there. So if it comes down to it, if a receiver or another tight end is there at 16, or another edge rushers there at 16, I think I legit think teams who come into that predicament, I legit think they like huddle up and do a coin toss. I think they do like two out of a three coin toss and be like, hey, heads we go with this guy, tails we go with this guy, and then let the chips fall where they may. I wouldn't hate it if they went edge at 16 and then weapon at 47.
None of their players on their roster had not a single one had more than 5 sacks last season. They were 27th in the NFL when it comes to pressure rate. I mean, we saw like some of the games where the Arizona Cardinals would just get the brakes blown off their building, like they literally could not compete on defense. I mean, it also the secondary is not all that good either. But I mean, if you edge rusher has got to be a major need. I think the weapons on they have. I mean. I didn't mean to poo-poo Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch. I still think that they're pretty good wide receivers. And I think you should build up this defense, and if you can get a wide receiver in day 3 or the back end of round 3, that should still be a starting caliber player.
Rotational piece, yeah, you're right. But at the same time, like again, like in order to win the conference, you have to first win your division, and you look at the top 2 teams just in your division, right? It's with the Rams, it's Puka Nacua, it's Cooper Kupp, who's on the roster for now. We'll get to that. And you got why is the running back's name escaping me?
Kyron Williams.
Kyron Williams, and then his backup is still pretty fucking decent. And
Chardonnay.
No, that's up in Seattle.
Wait, hold on.
Blake Corum.
He's okay. He's good, but I don't think he doesn't get any touches.
Because of Kyron Williams.
Williams.
I guarantee you, if Blake Corum was getting touches, he'd be like, okay, yeah, that's cool. And and then you go to San Francisco, who the biggest knock on Brock Purdy was, he's only good because he's surrounded by weapons, and the 49ers are like, nigga, duh. Ain't that our job? Like to put him in the best possible situation to be successful? Duh. Maybe if y'all did it, y'all quarterbacks would be better. So if that's where my thought process is with the Cardinals, like you have the 2 teams ahead of you are stacked, but also if you look at not just stacked offensively, stacked on both sides. So that's what your argument about defensively comes in, because if you look at the Rams defensively, Brandon Fisk and the other kid, those were rookies. Jared Verse.
They're not going anywhere.
They're not going anywhere. And then you had Kobe Turner from a year ago, and it's like, yo, they're stacked defensively. And then we already know what the Niners are on defense, and it's just like, okay, so we gotta, if they went defense the first 3 picks.
Well, I mean, they also have a needed guard, especially if Will Anderson leaves this team. He wasn't all that good last season, anyways. But
Will Hernandez. I think with Will Hernandez, like with a guy like that, because he was looked at as a potential building block for the Giants, and it didn't work out. It didn't work. So, like, we already know like how it is when certain players get a certain label about them, right? And this was a 2nd-round pick. This Will Hernandez was a 2nd-round pick. You looked at it as one of those guys. So if you're Arizona, I commend the job that Jonathan Gannon has done, because not too many people take the number 1 overall pick and be like, hey man, if you ain't careful, you're gonna be holding the clipboard. I don't care that you was number 1 overall pick.
Like, I mean, so they went 4-13 their first season under Gannon. They went 8-9 last season. I mean, they legitimately had a chance to win the title, win the division. I mean, that's considerable growth from one season to the next. Yeah, so look for them to take another step forward.
So I'm not on Arizona Cardinal fans. Social media. I don't know if there's any Cardinal fans screaming fire Gannon, but in all sense of things important, he did what some of y'all asked him to do. He went +4 in the win column. To go from 4 wins to 8, that's improvement.
Yep.
It might not be the improvement that you wanted, but he did improve. He went +4, so you can't hate on that.
Let's talk about top 3 priorities for the Arizona Cardinals. I think they still got to get better in the trenches, and then they have to utilize these 5 draft picks. They have 5 in this upcoming draft. I think if you're 16,
I think you fix the trenches, obtain more draft capital. I think people are looking at like what the Seahawks did like a couple years ago when they only had 5 picks and be looking like, oh, we can just do it. Like, no, you have to be extremely lucky to go into an NFL draft with 5 picks in 7 rounds, like 5 picks total in 7 rounds, and hit on every single pick. What Seattle did a couple years ago is extremely rare. You have teams that have 5 picks in a round. So if I'm Arizona, obviously I'm taking calls for that 16th pick, because I got to get more draft. Like you said, like there's a lot of holes, there's a lot of areas that need addressing. I'm taking calls for that 16th pick. I got to get more draft capital. I can't go 7 rounds, because I have to pick 153. What's that? What is that? That's the 4th or 5th round.
It's in the 5th round, so you don't have another pick in the 5th by the back end of the 5th round or the 6th round.
or the 7th round.
Or the 7th round.
So yeah, I got to get more draft capital. And priority number 3, obviously, it's still protect Kyler Murray. Like we go as he goes. If Kyler Murray is out there, we're a better team.
Yep. To the Seattle Seahawks now, who have negative $9.7 million in cap space.
Well, we already know what priority number 1 is for them.
So they will have to find a way to shed some cap so they can get back under the cap, obviously. They have the 18th pick in this upcoming draft. They do have some big-time names that are going to be free agents, like Jaron Reed, starter for them. Jonathan Hankins, another starter. Laken Tomlinson, fringe, offensive guard, swing tackle at times. Stone Forsythe, another just a depth piece at the offensive lineman. Ernest Jones, another defensive tackle. Josh Joby and Trey Brown. Mike McDonald, head coach. John Schneider, Chuck Arnold, team president, GM, respectively. Let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks. I think the conversation probably is going to start and end with what do you do with Geno Smith? I mean, it sounds like he's going to be back as the quarterback of this football team, but should he be?
So, like, to me, they this is the last year of his deal, right? The 3-year.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the last. 49ers. 3. Anyway, no, not get Geno Smith. Just look at the deal he got. That's what. Yeah. That's what you do. I think that's the kind of deal that that Brock Purdy gets. The kind of the deal.
I think he's going to get paid somewhere between $55 and $60 million.
Hey, I look at what Baker Mayfield got.
If you're Brock Purdy and you're sitting there in the negotiating room, you'd be like, hey, Trevor Lawrence got $55 million. He doesn't know shit in the NFL. Like, I'm taking my team to the Super Bowl. I'm getting my bag. Give me $55 million. That's where the conversation begins and ends. I played 3 seasons. I went to the NFC title game. I went to the Super Bowl. The team fell apart around me. That's not my fault.
That's also not a good – I mean, it's a good comparison, but it's not a good comparison because – this was a guy that was projected number 1 overall when he was.
I know.
Seattle,
but I'm Brock Purdy. I'm like, yeah, I gotta get 55, 57. I gotta be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
So if you're Seattle, obviously, again, it starts in quarterback position. If you're Seattle, you're going into this last season with Geno Smith. You pick at 18. I don't believe you go. I think by pick 18.
No, there's nowhere to, like, they're in an unfortunate scenario where like
obviously what's his name? Cam Ward, Shador Sanders. I'm sorry, they're gone. They are long.
Those guys are going to be in the top 3 picks. And there's nobody else. I mean, you can say whatever you want about Jalen Milroe. I just don't think he's an NFL quarterback.
And truth be told, him at 18,
that's stupid, Rich. Like that would be a terrible decision.
But at the same time, it's also like if you're looking at it like this, you don't have to play. You don't have to, like, if just like you don't have to play. You're not gonna play first off, unless something goes just absolutely horribly wrong. So like Jalen Milroe at 18, you sit down, you learn from a vet in Geno Smith, and you go from there. So like also you got the kid out of Ole Miss, Jackson Dart, same situation. But this is just at 18. Me personally, if I'm Seattle, depending on what Geno Smith does this season, can you pull up his numbers real quick?
Yeah. Give me a second.
If you're Geno Smith, sit down.
So 4,300 yards, 21 touchdowns, 15 picks. Completion percentage about 70.4, kind of where you want it to be.
Kind of minus the
15 picks.
Yeah, minus the 15 picks. So obviously, if you go to Geno Smith, pretty much make it a checklist. 4,300 yards, check, no problem with that. 21 touchdowns. I want to see +9.
Give me 25 at least.
We pass the fucking ball way too much in this league for you to be 1 over 20 in touchdowns. Like, bro, just for reference, Caleb Williams, a rookie, finished with 20, and he's a rookie. So I got a Geno Smith at 4,300. You can replicate that. Cool. If you can go, like I said, +9 in touchdown passes, even better. If you can finish with 30 touchdown passes, cool. If you can cut that 15 down to 7 or 8, we can talk extension, and then we gonna go from there. Like, would you be cool with another 3-year, 100 plus mil, whatever?
Yeah,
If
maybe.
so, maybe, right? Maybe. And we go from there.
And I think the other conversation that could potentially be had is the future of DK Metcalf on this roster. Like, do you think about trading him while he has his value probably couldn't be higher? He had a down season the most recent this year. I mean, the Chargers, I mean, he'd be a really interesting addition in LA. But you also have a problem with like what happened to the Titans a few years ago, right? Where you don't want to pay AJ Brown or a DK Metcalf, I guess, in this scenario. And so you basically trade him away for a first round pick that you use on a wide receiver, and they don't become even half the player that the guy you traded for. Like, I don't even remember the guy the Titans took to try to replace AJ Brown, but it didn't work out.
Traylon Burks.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
so here's the thing with DK Metcalf. Like, he structured his deal on like this on purpose. Like he could have gotten way more money. He could have signed for way more years, but he looked down the line. He looked down the pipeline. Who's got an extension since he's taken that deal? Justin Jefferson, right?
Yeah, that's it. CeeDee Lamb, I think, too.
CeeDee Lamb. Now who's the next big guy in line for a payday?
Jamar Chase, T. Higgins.
Jamar Chase. Like, hey, T. Higgins, no disrespect. Like, he ain't looking at what T. Higgins gets paid. No disrespect to him. He was strictly eyeing the quote unquote big 3 or big 4 if you want to count AJ Brown. Jettis got paid. CD got paid. Jamar Chase is gonna get paid. If it ain't by Cincinnati, it's gonna be by somebody. Somebody is gonna give Jamar Chase.
Oh, Cincinnati's not letting him walk out that door. I'd be shocked if they let that happen.
Cincinnati's history on this situation is
I know, but
it's not helping them. It's not helping them. So like, hey, so he's looking at that like, oh, and what's his name? And DJ Moore he got paid too. So he like, hey, I see what they getting. Like the floor, if you're DK Metcalf, the floor is what DJ Moore is making a year. I think DJ Moore is making like 27, maybe 28 a year. That's the floor. That's the floor.
He signed $110 million. So I can't do that math right now. But 4-year, $110 million, whatever that math is. I don't have time to do math right now. I think it's like $27 million, something like that, 28.
Yeah, so like that's the flow. With the DJ Moore deal, if I'm DK Metcalf, is the floor. Like, hey, just like if it's 4 for 110, if you give me 5 for 115, you get me to the table. That don't mean I'm signing the damn thing, but you get me to the table, and that's if you can't find me a trade partner. So that's definitely a conversation that the Seahawks probably have to. I think it's the last. It's the last conversation that they want to have. Right? Like, hey, DK, we gonna do everything in our power to keep you in the building. We are not going to let you go anywhere.
And also speaking about the draft, so like they do have some major needs. I mean, interior offensive linemen. I mean, they've basically been trying to replace Max Unger for however long it's been since he's retired. 10 years, whatever. And they got Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas. I mean, those guys played well in their first season. Charles Cross has been really good the last couple seasons, but Abraham Lucas has been banged up the last 2 years and really hasn't been able to really play much at all. And then they have another corner outside of Devin Witherspoon. Reek Woolen has seemed to have plateaued after his really strong rookie season where he had 6 picks and, was a Pro Bowler, but he's regressed a little bit the last couple seasons. And then they have obviously linebacker as they need to fill up that hole as well at linebacker. So let's talk about priorities. What should the top 3 priorities be for Seattle.
You said one. Get under the cap. Get under the get out of salary cap here. You can't bring nobody in if you ain't got no money to do it. Number two, you got a certified stud in Devon Witherspoon. I am so glad he did not land in Detroit. Like, I would not want to face him twice a year. Like, that guy. Hey, I don't care that he in the same conference as the Bears. It's like, it's bad enough he in the same. It would be hell if he was in the same division that we saw that dude twice a year. So yeah, get under the cap, get more DB help, because like you said, like Reek Willen, while he's still good, obviously, because it's like, hey, I'm not throwing his way.
Well, I think the other thing is, like, so Reek Willen is getting exposed a little bit more than he was at least his rookie season. Like, Devin Witherspoon is just a better football player than he is. And so if I have the option to not throw at Devin Witherspoon, I'm just not going to. Like, as we talked about this when we did the award show, what is that, a month ago or so, whatever. If you're a shutdown top flight corner, like,
you ain't gonna see the ball, bro.
You're not seeing the ball. Like, you might as well just be out there. Like
you getting great cardio in, man. Like,
yeah.
you just out there getting great cardio. Like, again, I brought it up because Pat Surtain won DPOY, and I'm like, hey, the Bears got to win more games, because there's no reason why Jalen Johnson is grading top 3 in Pro Football Focus grades, and he can't get that love. I'm like, hey, the Bears start winning games, Jalen Johnson's absolutely going to get that recognition, because it's the same thing with him. Jalen Johnson's finished, like, I think the year before when they went 7-10, Jalen Johnson had a career year in picks, and it was like 3 or 4. That was a career year.
Yeah.
And then this year it's just like, yeah, I'm not throwing his way again.
Yeah, we'll throw it literally anywhere else.
We will throw it literally anywhere else, just not him.
And we'll see what's and then top 3. I think you got to figure out like what the future of the quarterback position is here in Seattle as well. Do you take somebody late in the draft just to flyer on somebody? I mean, is it Quinn Ewers? Does he end up becoming a Seattle Seahawk? Because the problem is with picking at 18, you just can't take anyone. There's not a quarterback to take at 18.
Bro,
like, you're gonna have to roll
Ewers, if Quinn Ewers or Jackson Dart is there at 50
or 82,
would not hate that at all. Because it's
Quinn Ewers has a live arm. Like, he's just like, he's got a big arm.
It's the same thing, but outside of Reek Willen and Devon Witherspoon, right? Who really concerns you in the DB room? Like, don't get me wrong, like Kobe Bryant at safety, nice. That's fine. He's a more than solid. He's a more than solid safety. Julian Love came into the league as
he's a good football player.
I think Julian Love came into the league as a DB, as a corner, and he's pretty much played all DB spots. He's played corner, he's played safety, and now he's listed on their depth chart as a free safety. So,
and he was good for them last season. I think he led the team in picks.
But yeah, because it's like, hey, I'm not throwing to him. I got to throw this motherfucker somewhere. Somebody got to get the ball. And so get under the cap, figure out the QB situation, and secondary help. Well, defensive help, because you need help at linebacker, and
I still think they need an edge rusher. Like that, when you look at the names on their offensive defensive line, outside of Leonard Williams, none of these other guys really scare you all that much. And Bowie Mafe hasn't really taken the step forward many people thought he would take. So, moving on from Seattle to the final team in the NFC West, the Los Angeles Rams, who bounced back after what was a bounce back.
But real quick, back to Seattle. I think their front four, like the D lineman, I think their D lineman is, you couldn't ask for a better. I mean, you could, obviously, because like you see what they got.
Sure. I mean, Byron Murphy, the second you expect to take another step forward.
You got him.
Really, really solid rookie season.
Roy Robertson Harris made his name here, and he's still found success elsewhere. Like you said, Leonard Williams, and then you got and then Draymond Jones. Like, bro, like they got some pieces on that front. It's literally everybody behind them.
Yeah,
it's like the front is fine. The front is fine. It's like you said, edge, linebacker, and DB is not named Reek Willen and Devon Witherspoon and Julian Love. I'm gonna give him and Kobe Ryan. I'm gonna give them their flowers.
To the Los Angeles Rams, made the playoffs, beat the Minnesota Vikings in that playoff game in SoFi Stadium. They have the 26th overall pick. Yeah, they whooped that ass. Notable free agents: Ellery Jackson, DeMarcus Robinson, Christian Noseboom, Joseph Noteboom. Both of those are offensive linemen. Bobby Brown, the Verge, Troy Reader, linebackers. Neville Gallimore, I think, is a defensive tackle. Tutu Atwell, wide receiver. Kilo Weatherspoon, cornerback. They have $38 million in cap space. Sean McVay is still the head coach of this team. Les Snead, GM, and Kevin Demoff is the team president as they look to move forward. Potentially conversation around Cooper Kupp. They've apparently decided to move on from Cooper Kupp, and they are allowing the Matthew Stafford camp to gauge his interest across the league. So this Rams team could look considerably different a month from now than they do now.
Excuse me. Yeah, I try not to delve into players personal lives because that's what they are, personal. But if I'm Matthew Stafford, I kind of like hold a pillow over his wife's face and be like, yo, just shut up for a minute. Because when you say shit, it comes back to me. Earlier in the season, a story about how y'all started dating went viral. And that's like, if I'm Matthew Stafford, I don't need that kind of attention in the locker room. Like, you started dating his teammate to get his attention. We were doing perfectly fine with our lives without knowing that information. Like, we did not have to know that in order for you to get Matthew's attention, you started dating the backup quarterback while you were at Georgia. And Matthew was like, oh, hell no, I ain't finna have that. We don't care. First, that's the big one. Like, we did not care. We did not need to know that. Now, all of a sudden, you on your little podcast talking about something like y'all looking at houses here and there, and that leads to speculation of, oh, is Matthew Stafford getting traded? Why wouldn't he? Like, why else are y'all looking at houses this and this? Because they got the money to do that. Because
that's like players, like if they want to have a house in another city, they'll just buy another house.
Yes,
it's not like, oh, hey, they're moving, so they must be leaving town. Like, no. Like, they're NFL players. They want to buy another house in a random city just to have it.
Because they can do multiple things with that. It could be vacation stuff. Yeah. It could be
rental unit.
It could be a rental unit. It could be just another form. Income. Right. It could be another stream of income for them. So if I'm him, I tell my wife, like, hey, baby, I love you, but sometimes you gotta shut the hell up. Know what to say and when to say it and how it's gonna be perceived. Because there should be a camp for athlete wives and girlfriends, mistresses, all that stuff about what to say, when to say it, and who to say it to.
It would be interesting if you had your wife and your mistress both go to the camp.
That's the thing. They ain't supposed to know who is who.
Anyways. So, just quick yes or no. Will Matthew Stafford be a Ram when the season starts?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because what's the plan? What's the?
there is no. The current backup is Jimmy Garoppolo, who's a free agent, and then they have Stetson Bennett, who has been a train wreck whenever he plays in preseason. So, there's nobody on the roster that you'd be like, oh, if we trade Matthew Stafford away, there's nobody that'll be like, oh, that's the guy. Like, he'll be our starting quarterback next season. Like, no. And at 26, sure, maybe you can take Jalen Milroe. That wouldn't be an egregious reach if they took him at 26, but this team has other needs. They still need, if you trade away Cooper Kupp, you're going to need another wide receiver. If you let DeMarcus Robinson walk, you're going to need another wide receiver. This offensive line is still kind of not good.
And Joseph Noteboom was literally thrown into the fire, but asking him to replace a Hall of Famer and Andrew Whitworth, completely unfair. Don't get me wrong.
He doesn't even start for this team anymore when he's healthy. Rob Havenstein is their starting right tackle. So.
But at the same time, it's like when Andrew Whitworth, like when it was, I think that like outside of Jason Kelsey when he retired, I think that was like the worst kept secret in football. Like when the Rams won the Super Bowl and Andrew Whitworth is like, yeah, he's done. Especially now, like I think I thought win lose or draw, Whitworth was done anyway.
Yeah, I think he kind of made it clear that this was going to be like because he contemplated retirement even before the season started. Then he came back, obviously won the Super Bowl. Nothing else to really play for.
Right,
Hall of Famer.
And
he's not already in. I don't even know if he's
no. You got to wait. Damn,
5 years.
Has it been 5?
It's close.
I think next year he's eligible. Yeah, next year. The NFL needs to adopt the hockey rule. In hockey, it's only 3. You have to be retired for 3 years and then you're eligible.
I mean, the years is relevant. They could make it 1 year.
They really could. Like, I really wish they would do that. It'd be like, hey, you know what? Like, especially depending on who it is.
Treat it like the Wrestling Federation Hall of Fame. Just put random people in at random time. Like if you're not even technically retired, we're just gonna put you in anyways. Like Rey Mysterio got in the Hall of Fame. He hasn't retired. He's still wrestling today. Like
they signed that Legends contract. It's like, hey, I need bread. But hey,
I don't think Rey Mysterio's even on a Legends. I think he's just wrestling. Like I don't think.
Hey, but real talk. Hey, I know you don't play video games, nothing like that. But like, hey, when I play Madden, when I play Madden with the guys, and we do our little fantasy, we do our franchises, and we do a fantasy draft. I make it like a mission to somehow get Ahkello Witherspoon on my team because, hey, in Madden, he is a fucking dog. He's 6'2", and he just shuts everybody down.
If only he was like that in real life, he wouldn't be on his like 14.
Hey, because 2K got them dudes where it's just like, hey, you a beast in the game, but you are not like that in real life. Hey, I need that poll in Madden. Like, hey, who is a beast for y'all in Madden, but not like that? He's not that guy in real life. For me, it is 100% Ahkello Witherspoon. I'll be leading the league in picks with him. I didn't got a couple DPOYs with Ahkello Witherspoon. Like, hey, I'll make it a mission.
But in real life, Ahkello Witherspoon leaves something to be desired at the quarterback position.
But right, and that's like Tutu Atwell is not like he's a speed demon. Like Tutu Atwell is like, hey, find him on the field because 9 times out of 10, it's either something quick or it's something deep.
And I talk about this all the time. Demarcus Robinson has never missed the playoffs in his NFL career. Never. If you have Demarcus Robinson on your roster, probably going to the playoffs. And then I think there's also a conversation about tight end. I mean, Tyler Higbee only played the 1 game this season. He got banged up in that in the divisional round, and then or in that game against the Vikings, and then even though you didn't really need him, but I let's talk about Cooper Kupp. Like, so what is Cooper Kupp's value, and what do you think they can get for him, and where do you think he ends up?
This is the terrible thing about injury because, excuse me, depending on who you are, they automatically expect you to be like, you ain't injured no more. All right, I'm fully expecting
triple crown out of you.
Triple crown Cooper Kupp to come back and be on that field. What also didn't help him was the emergence of Puka Nacua because no one saw that coming out of a 5th round draft pick out of wherever the hell Puka Nacua went to college. BYU. Especially like who the fuck's throwing you the ball at BYU?
Who knows?
Jared Hall. Oh yeah, it had to be Jared Hall.
It had to have been, yeah.
So it's like so in a way, like if you're the Rams, you're kind of looking at it like you're a bit expendable. We can move Puka Nacua to receiver number 1. We could probably, I ain't gonna say shortchange Demarcus Robinson, but we could pay him modestly, slide him to number 2, we can legit just draft a third or fourth wide receiver.
And I know the Rams and Izzy are very high on Jordan Whittington, the kid from Texas, who I guess they really like during the process, and I think they want to get him more playing time.
So there's that, and so on and so forth. But once again, it's so priority number one for them. Address the offensive line, because these receivers ain't no good if the quarterback is on his back or has no time. Like you saw that in the playoff game.
I mean,
right?
you see that. I mean, if Jalen Carter doesn't blow up that play, that's probably a touchdown.
Twice.
Yeah.
He blew up the play twice, and it was fine because y'all had him on the ropes going no huddle, and then it was your lineman who fucked up the church's money. Because he false starts, and then now you're behind the sticks, and that's just like, oh, we can sub now, and Jalen Carter's like licking his chops, like, hey, yeah, this shit over with. So priority number one, fix the line. Priority number two.
I mean, I think you got to get good value for Cooper Kupp. I mean, I think Denver makes a whole crap load of sense.
So like, if it's a deal you can't say no to, obviously you take the deal. Right, like you, because like first off, what are you asking? Like,
well, I think a first or a second round pick for Cooper Kupp, or for sure a second round pick. I don't think I wouldn't trade Cooper Kupp for anything less than a second. He's still good.
Because like it's not like the Rams are. It's not like they said like, hey, we're shopping Cooper Kupp. The notification, the notification was clearly the Rams grant Cooper Kupp's request to seek a trade.
I thought it was the other way around. The Rams told Cooper Kupp that they intended on trading him because he made this whole social media post
it was
about not being happy about it.
The Rams grant Cooper Kupp's request to seek a trade. That was the notification I got. That's that's what I saw.
But anyways, I just.
So basically outside of the Super Bowl season, the Triple Crown year, right? 9 games, 12 games, 12 games. So you've missed. So out of 100, so yeah, 9, 12, and 12. That's 8, 5, and 5. So like you haven't played 17 games a full season since the Triple Crown year, since the Super Bowl year. So if your team, okay, you said Denver.
I think Denver makes a lot of sense.
Just a hypothetical, if you're Denver and you calling about Cooper Kupp, and the Rams are like if you're Cooper Kupp and you hear that Denver offered 2/3 and a fourth for you can't be mad at that, because the Triple Crown shit, bro, you ain't played the full season since the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
So if I like, you can't be upset at your quote unquote value. Like if they traded you after the Triple Crown, after the Super Bowl, yeah, then you're going for a couple first and a second and so on and so forth.
Yep. But I mean, time is undefeated.
But I'm like, so basically I'm trading for 67, 17, and 6 touchdowns, which is fine. Which is like that's a solid, but in 12 games. So you're falling into a stratosphere of, I have Cooper Kupp, but for how long? And when how long do I have Cooper Kupp?
And then I think another one of their big needs for this Rams team is that cornerback. I mean, we talked about Witherspoon at length here, but I mean, their defensive backs, just their corners, they're not that good. I mean, Darius Williams he's bounced around the league a little bit. He's fine. Quentin Lake is a fine player, but none of them are really needle movers when you're talking about the cornerback position. I do like Cameron Curl and Cameron Kitchens.
I like Cameron Curl.
Their safety duo, and I really like their front seven, with Jared Verse and Kobe Turner and Brandon Fisk, Bobby Brown III, and Troy Reader, who's probably not going to be on this team next season, but they have to address cornerback for sure. Top 3 priorities, TJ, give them to me.
Figure out Cooper Kupp. Figure out the Matthew Stafford ordeal. Ordeal's not the right.
I think that might be a strong word for it.
Yeah, that's strong. the Cooper Cup is more. That's more of an ordeal than Matthew Stafford, and fix the line because again, like obviously, like if they were to move on from now what this is what my cousin I don't know if this is true. This is what my cousin had sent me and my brother that allegedly like they asking for a first for Matthew Stafford if they were to trade him. And so me, the three of us, we have our own little dialect, and I'm all like, who is that desperate to give a first for
Pittsburgh, the Jets?
That's bro, that ass, them the two teams I said. Like so I'm like
Giants.
I don't think that if the Giants weren't number 2 overall or number 3
they're not.
overall,
They're number 3 overall.
Where are they? Number 3?
Yeah.
So so you can
the Vikings.
So like if you're the Giants, you necessarily don't have to do that because why?
I'm not giving up a first round pick for Matthew Stafford. Like I think those days are long gone.
No, but also if you're the Giants, if you're Cleveland, you already made it abundantly clear that what's his name, Deshaun Watson is your quarterback next season. So
Deshaun Watson is not going to play next season. I promise. Like he will be recovering all of next season. Like he will not play.
But you ain't draft.
They're not drafting a quarterback. They're not drafting a quarterback at 2.
You're not drafting a quarterback at 2. So if you're the Giants, you don't have to worry about.
I mean, that's another team that could take. Could trade for Matthew Stafford or bring in Aaron Rodgers.
Who
the Browns?
I don't. I just don't see it. Like so like yeah, it's
no, but I mean, but the Giants, your biggest fear is that the Cleveland Browns trade out of that pick with the quarterback needy teams later in the draft, like as a Raider team, or the Titans don't take a quarterback at number 1 overall and they trade out of that spot too. Like the Giants would probably push all their chips to the middle and trade the Titans for the first overall pick. So, but that's a conversation for a whole other time.
So if you're like, so figure that out.
Because if you're the Giants and you don't take a quarterback, like you end up with, no disrespect to Jackson Dart or something, like they came in the second round, that would be a disaster.
No, because again, like it's cute and clever and fun when the GM Les Snead is on the parade float with a T-shirt on that says "F them picks" after you just won the Super Bowl. But then later down the line, what happens? Some of those drafts, like some of the guys that you traded those picks for, they get older, they get beat up, and it's almost like, damn, we kind of need those picks. We said F you to.
I mean, I think over the last 2 years, I think they've done a really good job rebuilding this roster. So
for what it's worth, yeah. Like obviously, like you haven't been able to recreate the success that led to that Super Bowl. Right, but at the same time, you've also a couple plays here and there this season. Who knows what happens? Right, you beat you manhandle the Vikings, and then you're literally 2 plays away from beating the Eagles, and then you go to the NFC Championship. Who knows? Like legit, who knows what happens? From there.
And I think they could have given the Kansas City Chiefs all they could handle in the Super Bowl too with that defensive line.
Bro, I would pay top dollar to see a Matthew Stafford, Pat Mahomes duel, because that's exactly what the hell that would have been.
But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. This has been the first of our NFL offseason previews. We started with the NFC West. We'll swing into the AFC. Maybe we'll go into the East. Talk about Buffalo tomorrow. But yeah, keep an eye on all our content. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. I'm David Huffman. Right there is my co-host, Mr. T.J. Hopkins. And TJ, what do we do here at the Prime, my friend?
We bring the heat, and it was 40 degrees today. And I have never been
almost shorts weather, baby. It's almost riding in the car with the windows down.
See, I ain't going that far. I need that number to be closer to, like, if it's like 57, 60, that's when you will see me wear some shorts. But if it was, like I said, it was 40 degrees today, and I ain't never been so happy to see 40 degrees in my life. I'll take that back. Because
I was ecstatic, dude. Let me tell you.
like it was to hear the trickle of ice and snow melt. It was a welcome sight. It was nice to see.
So TJ, you know what's an unfortunate way to know that your brake lights are out?
Your car don't stop.
No, just the brake lights.
The brake lights. No, you get pulled over.
So yes, but I also so on Saturday I was going to the Y so I could work out real quick, and I was on my way home from the Y, and I wasn't really paying all that much attention, and I was making a right at left at like a light, and I was just going to Moe's Southwest. I don't know if you've ever been to Moe's Southwest. That place is the bomb. Anyway, I'll keep this short. And all of a sudden I look behind me. There's a cop pulling me over. I'm like, oh shit.
Oh, what did I do?
I was like, was I speeding or something? And so the cop comes up to like the passenger side of the door, and he's like, where are you going? Like, he didn't ask me any other questions. He's like, where are you going? I'm like, going to Moe's Southwest. He's like, why? He's like, I just almost slammed into the back of your car when you stopped for that car to make that left turn, like in the middle of the road. Like, you have no brake lights. Like, I literally almost crashed right. Like, I'm like, oh, all right. Bad. Well, I'm like, oh, my bad. Like, how am I supposed to know that? Like, the cop was so mad. Like, I'm like, you realize I have no idea. Like, I have no way of knowing if my brake lights are out in the middle of the day. Like, anyway, yeah. But anyways, this has been Prime Sports World. We'll be back here tomorrow. You guys all have a good night and stay safe. Here's a quick questions from our sponsor, the Huddle Sports Network. You have a good night, TJ.
See you, man.
Welcome to the Huddle Sports Network, where we're breaking boundaries and redefining podcasting. Broadcasting live on 6 different platforms, we're bringing you the latest in sports like never before. Imagine tuning into real-time discussions, expert analyses, and fan interactions all at your fingertips. Each platform offers a unique experience, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. We're not just sharing stories, we're creating a community of passionate sports enthusiasts. Join us as we dive deep into the evolution of podcasting, where every episode is a chance to engage, debate, and celebrate the world of sports. This is where your voice matters and the game never stops. Welcome to the Huddle Sports Network, where we're breaking boundaries and redefining podcasting. Broadcasting live on 6 different platforms, we're bringing you the latest in sports like never before, where sports passion meets podcasting brilliance. I'm Mike, the Bear fan, and alongside Bill, the Packer fan, and our buddy Ken Catalone, we're bringing you an incredible lineup of 38 diverse podcasters. Each one brings their unique flavor to the table, covering everything from game analysis to behind-the-scenes stories. Imagine diving deep into the minds of experts who live and breathe football, sharing insights that you won't find anywhere else.